Well, it's raining outside. It's a perfect day to stay inside. And today I'm going to teach you how to make homemade bagels. Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. This is Kevin. And today I'm going to show you how to make another one of my, family favorites. It's something that I make exclusively here on the homestead. I'm the only one who makes these. And they're really popular with everybody in our family, and when I make them, they don't last long. It's homemade bagels, and I guarantee that once you make homemade bagels, you're never going to buy bagels from the store again. They're so easy to make. They just take a little bit of time, but once you do it, I guarantee you're never going to go back to those store-bought bagels. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to need is flour. Now you can use bread flour or all-purpose flour. We use organic all-purpose flour for most of our baking here on the homestead, and that's what we're going to use today. So the first thing we're going to need is 4 cups of this all-purpose flour. Alright, so 4 cups of flour. The next thing we're going to need is 1 tablespoon of sugar. We use cane sugar, so we stay away from the GMOs. So 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I'll put the recipe in the description below, so you don't have to worry about remembering it now. I'll put it below so you guys can just copy it down and make it much easier for yourselves. The next thing is 1.5 teaspoons of salt. We use pink Himalayan salt, and we order that in bulk on Amazon. If you want to see that, we found a great source for it on Amazon. A really good deal. I'll put a link to it in our Amazon store. The next thing is yeast. 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. And then the last thing is 1 tablespoon of oil. Now the recipe that I have calls for vegetable oil, but again, because we don't like the GMOs, we stay away from just regular vegetable oil. So you can use that if you want to, but today I'm going to use sunflower oil because I really like sunflower oil for these types of recipes. So 1 tablespoon of oil. And that's it as far as the ingredients for plain bagels. Now if you wanted to add some herbs or something like that into here, you could do that now and mix it right in with the dough. But otherwise, this is it for plain bagels, and we're going to leave these plain because I know the kids are already looking forward to having some with some homemade jelly. So let's go over to the mixer, and then the only other thing we need to add is water once we kind of get this mixed up a little bit. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is use my whisk and just make sure we get all of those ingredients, mixed together really well before we add the water. Alright, so once you're sure all of your ingredients are mixed together real well, take the whisk off and we'll switch to our dough hook. Now you're going to need about 1.5 cups of water. Now this is going to be a really stiff dough when you're done. So you're going to use about 1.5 cups of water, but at first only add about 1 cup to 1.25 cups and see where you're at, and then if you need to add a little more, add the rest. And a lot of this will just come from practice to know what the dough is supposed to feel like, but it's going to be a much more stiff dough than like a bread dough. once that's all formed into a ball of dough, we're going to go back over to the counter and we're going to knead it just a little bit, and then we're going to divide it into separate pieces and let it rest. Let's go back to the counter. Alright, so we've got our ball of dough, and it should feel heavy for its size. Again, a lot of that will come from practice, but it's a stiff dough. It should feel heavy for its size. And what we're going to do now is we're going to just sprinkle a little bit of flour here on our board. I like to use this board for kneading bread and things like that. It's just it's an oak board that I bought a long time ago. We're just going to knead this just a little bit, just to make sure it's not, not sticky. And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide this into 8 pieces. We're going to make 8 bagels today. So we'll start by cutting it in half. We'll cut those in half. And in half again. So we have 8 pieces that are about the same size. Now we're just going to roll them into little balls like this, and then we're going to cover them up and let them rest for about 15 minutes. Alright, once we have all 8 of them made into balls here, we're just going to cover them. And we'll set a timer for 15 minutes and come back and start shaping them into bagels. Alright, it's been 15 minutes and these have been resting here on the counter, and now we're going to start shaping them into bagels. You'll see that they've gotten just a little bit bigger than they were when we first started. So that's exactly what you want. They're not going to get really big. That will come later. So for now, you'll see that they've increased in size just a little bit. We're just going to start shaping them into the bagels, and then they need to rest again. To make them into bagels, all you're going to do is take one of these little balls that you made, just kind of flatten it out a little bit, and then just poke your thumbs and fingers through, and you're going to just make a hole in the middle and make it look something like this. At this point, the hole can be, bigger than what you would expect on a regular bagel, because they'll rise again and that hole will fill in. So we're just going to do that with all 8 of these, and then we're going to cover it back up and let it rest for another 20 minutes. There we go. So they're all ready. We're just going to cover them up again with our towel, and we're going to let them rest here on the counter for 20 minutes. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is just oil a cookie sheet. I'm going to just oil it with the sunflower oil that I used before. And then we're also going to get a pot of boiling water going on the stove, because when these are done resting, we need to get them in the boiling water, and that's when they'll increase in size and be ready to put in the oven. So we're going to set a timer for another 20 minutes, and I'll be back then. Alright, it's been another 20 minutes. You'll see that the bagels have gotten just a little bit bigger once again. And now we're going to take them over to our pot of boiling water, and we're going to boil them for 1 minute on each side per bagel. So let's head over to the stove. Alright, so we've got our pot of boiling water. It's already going. At this point, I also turned the oven on to 425. We're going to let that preheat while we're boiling these. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these bagels one at a time, and we're going to put them into the water. In my pot, I can usually fit 3 at a time. And we're going to boil those for 1 minute, and then we're going to flip them over. Now, I just used the timer on my phone to time that. We're going to boil these for 1 minute, and then we're going to flip them over and boil them for a minute on the other side. Okay, so it's been a minute. We're just going to flip each of them over in the water and leave them for another minute. Alright, so our minute's up, and you'll see how much bigger they got during the time that they boiled. They almost doubled in size. So we're just going to take those off one at a time and put them onto our cookie sheet here. And then we're just going to do the rest with the same thing with the rest of these. We're going to boil them for 1 minute on each side, and then we'll get ready to bake them. Alright, so these are the last two. Look how amazing those look. So we're going to take those out, put them on our baking sheet. Oh, and perfect timing. The oven is preheated. So we're going to take those, put them on the baking sheet. And now we're going to put these in the oven again at 425. We're going to bake them for 10 minutes. And then we're going to flip them over and bake them for another 5 minutes. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. Let's take them out and see where we're at. They're looking good. Let's flip them all over. Look at that. Wow, they're looking awesome. Alright, so we're going to put them back in for another 5 minutes. Alright, it's been another 5 minutes. Look at those. Those are amazing. Alright, so now we just need to take them off, put them on a cooling rack, and we'll be all done. Alright, look at those. I guarantee if you make these, you will never ever go back to store-bought bagels. These are awesome for your family. Go ahead and make them. And I guarantee if you also follow the instructions for Sarah's homemade jelly, which is right up here, these will be perfect with the homemade grape jelly. If this is your first time here, I hope you'll hit the subscribe button before you leave. If you are one of our traditionalists who comes back every day, thank you so much. We sure do appreciate it. And until next time, you guys, thanks for stopping by the homestead. Take care, and God bless.